Hey guys, it's Spitzer, and today I'm
Guilherme, one of the designers for Arcadia Quest Inferno.
and we're going to be looking at basically just a general rules overview.
Correct.
So we're not going to be playing any of the game today. In this video, we'll have another video where we play the game.
Yep.
There'll be kind of a bridged video that kind of just shows you how the game is played pretty quickly, but doesn't go in depth in the rules. This video is kind of a highlight reels of how the game is played, some of the new mechanics, plus if you're new to the Arcadia Quest universe, kind of how the standard rules worked in the previous games.
So why don't you do the standard part?
Right.
I'll jump in for the Inferno.
I like it.
Alright.
Alright, so let's say there's basically two phases during a turn for a standard player. A standard player, not a skilled player, a standard player. A skilled player can do a lot more.
Right.
But a standard player, like myself,
Uh-huh.
has two phases. The one phase is attack, and the other phase is move. Right?
Mm-hmm.
During my attack phase, I can use any of my item cards that are on my dashboard for my hero that I've activated.
Right.
I have 3 heroes.
Mm-hmm.
And then my move phase, I can actually move up to 3 spaces.
Correct.
Let's quickly just talk about what that means. So in this case, I have these 3 guys here. This will be the guild that I'm playing, the Sharks.
All right.
Right? And I wanted to activate Cassius. Okay, so I'm going to activate him, and my first move would probably be to go out this door. Well, the door is closed.
Yep.
So opening the door is actually part of his movement. So that's his first move, right? Then I take a step out, second move,
Right.
and then I don't have to move into this square with her to attack. I can attack by being close, excuse me.
Correct.
Right. And this being close means 1 square away on the north, south, east, or west of the
Or in
monster.
the same space.
Or in the same space, because you can move into the same space. And that brings into rules about like blocking and line of sight, which we can kind of touch on in a second.
Sure.
But simple enough, if I move here, I can attack, or I can move in 1 step, right?
Correct. If
So-
you do move in though,
Yeah.
that will trigger a reaction, which we can get into later.
Yeah, we can get into that too later too. So perfect, I'm gonna attack from here. So let's say I'm gonna use my new Dusty Blade. It ain't the Rusty
Ooh,
Blade,
right.
it's the Dusty Blade.
Getting better.
And I would attack her, and let's say because I'm super good at this game,
Yep.
overkill.
Alright.
No guard reaction, she just dies. Now, I still have 1 movement thing. Oh, you're right, sorry. She goes from here to here.
Yep. Into the spawn tile.
Into the spawn tile.
Yeah.
Now, I have 1 movement left, but I can't use it.
Right.
Because I can't move, attack, move. I can either attack and move or move and attack. Correct? Yeah, okay. So let's go back and quickly talk about the guard reaction that we were talking about earlier. So I make this move and I decide, man, I want to kill her and I want to pick up this exploration token, right? In 1 single turn.
Right.
To do that, I would have to move into her square.
That'll trigger her guard reaction.
Sure.
Which means that she's protecting all close places to her, which are the adjacent ones and her own. So when you leave a space that is close to her, she'll do an attack on you.
Sure.
And then we check her monster card. In this case, she rolls 3 dice and looking for swords.
So she would roll an attack on me. Even though I'm moving closer, I am moving out of 1 square that is close to her.
Correct.
So she would attack as I advance. And it kind of makes sense. I'm running towards her, charging her. She's not going to be like, I'm going to wait until he's right up in my face.
Yep.
She's going to start poking the second she gets a chance to poke,
That's
right? All right, so we've talked about basically, I could charge her and try to get this token, because to pick this token up, she's got to be dead first.
Yep.
So if I did charge in, face the guard reaction, kill her, I would automatically pick up the exploration token.
Automatically, yes.
Yeah, but I don't want to risk it. I don't want to possibly get hurt twice. So I am going to stop here.
Spencer the chicken. All right, go somewhere. Stop right there.
I've been called worse by you, actually, earlier today. So I'm going to stop here, and then I'm going to attack. So let's talk about how attacking is resolved. I said before I would attack with my Dusty Blade. So my Dusty Blade is a melee weapon.
Yep.
It says it's got an icon that says 3, and it has a sword.
Correct.
So I'm going to pick up 3 black dice.
Don't forget you're exhausted.
Yeah, good call. I'm trying to cheat. I exhaust it saying I'm going to use this weapon. I exhaust it, I pick up my 3 dice, and I roll looking for swords.
Right.
Now, on this particular monster, which is a demoness, we look at her card.
Correct.
And what does it say about her health?
Well, she has 2 life points. If you roll 4 hits, that's an overkill, so she would not attack you back.
Right, so if I have 3 dice, so unless I'm rolling some criticals,
Yeah. You're not going to overkill.
I'm not going to overkill. So let's
Can you
say,
do it?
well, let's find out. So I'm going to roll. So I got a perfect roll as an example, which is weird. It's almost like it was supposed to happen that way. Which is, I have 1 sword, 1 bow, and a critical.
Right.
I need swords to be successful, right? So this is going to count as 1 successful hit,
Yep.
2 successful hits. So I have a sword and a critical that counts as successful, and then my bow is a miss.
In this case, yes.
Yeah, but I get to take one more black die because every critical counts as a success and allows for a reroll.
An extra die.
I'm sorry, an extra.
Go ahead.
Excuse me.
Come on!
So I got another sword.
Alright.
So that's 3. She's dead,
Yep.
but it's not an overkill.
Correct.
So then the player to my right is going to take over for her.
And he would use the same system, right? He looks up at the card, there is an icon, either a sword or a bow, and the number of dice that are rolled.
And some monsters have defense.
Yes, they do.
Which we'll get to defense in a second, but she doesn't have defense, so we'll just pass over defense on her turn because she doesn't have it. She doesn't get to block in any of that attack.
So we got some wound tokens.
Yep.
Place it right by her.
She's right there, yeah.
Back there. Yep. And now she gets to attack back.
Okay, so then the player to my right is you.
Yep.
Because
Clearly.
these guys aren't here yet for the video.
Clearly, yeah. See what she gets. So she's rolling 3 black dice and looking for swords as well. It's not too good, so I only got 1 hit.
So you only got 1 hit, you got 2 bows and a sword, only 1 hit, and then I get to defend. Cassius has 1 defense.
Wow. Well, he's not using a lot of armor, is he?
And he's not using a lot of armor. Look at that guy.
Yep.
He's just letting it all hang out.
Alright.
So I'm going to take this die,
Roll all failures.
and I'm going to roll, and I get a blank.
Yep.
Which means I just take the hit, so I take another damage.
There you go.
It goes to me. It can either sit next to my guy or on my card. It's a little bit easier if it's on the card, right? So he takes 1 hit, and all right, that's resolved. She dies.
Goes to the spawn tile.
I learned this time. Goes to the spawn tile. These can come off the board. They go back to our little pile.
All the
over
blood
here.
on the street there.
We just wipe it up.
Yep.
There's guys that come and wipe it up.
There's
so
gotta be
that's
someone to clean up Inferno, right?
right.
Gotta be
Right.
someone.
Well, there's janitors everywhere. Right. So they that ends my turn, and that's basically your standard move and attack turn.
Yeah.
Everybody else is going to follow the same thing. The only thing that might change is if you're doing ranged, right?
And keep in mind, you can also attack and then move. You're not
Right.
you're not always obligated to
Exactly.
move and then attack.
Move and then attack. You just can't split it up.
Yeah.
Can't move to attack and then move 1. You commit to movement and then you commit to attack, or you commit to attack and then to movement.
So that's one of the 2 options that you have for your turn. You can either activate a hero like Spencer just did, or you can also rest your guild. As you've seen, as you take turns, you go exhausting your weapons.
Exactly.
At some point, your heroes of your guild will have plenty of weapons exhausted. In order to free them up to be used again, you gotta rest your entire guild. That takes your entire turn.
Let's say that attack also went real bad.
Sure.
And that demoness was just critical.
As it happens with Spencer.
Critical. Sometimes it happens. And she kills me outright.
All right.
So Cassie's out of the game forever, or
That's a good part. There's no
Yeah.
player elimination.
Yeah.
So this guy will go back to the guild dashboard.
right? So he's gonna go over here.
Yep.
He'll sit there. He'll wait. When I rest, he can come back either in my starting zone,
Yep.
or close to another player of mine.
Which is an important strategic element because as you position your heroes, you're also creating like spawn points for heroes who are dead on your guild.
Right.
Now,
So
on a typical Arcadia game, whenever I would spot this, like Cassius with a wound, that is blood on the water. So that means that other players may try to kill Spencer to complete a quest.
right, because some of the quests are PvE, player versus environment, which is fighting monsters and achieving certain quests around the map.
Right.
And some of the quests are player versus player, which is killing each other.
Yep.
Right? So yeah, I might be wounded, so I might be an easy target. So the only thing we haven't really touched on is when you're doing ranged, right? Because the difference is there's basically no ranged distance. It's all just line of sight.
As long as you can see it, you can shoot it.
Right, which is awesome, right? It's a very simple rule. Cassius actually doesn't have any ranged weapons, which is okay, because we'll just take another player out for an example, right? Okay, so let's say I activate Diana here, right?
Sure.
And I go 1, 2, and now I can attack this demoness over here.
Or the demon creature, yes.
Or the demon pitcher.
Yep,
Right, exactly.
correct.
Same deal. I'm going to use the chakram. So I'm going to plan on attacking him. I roll for bows.
Right.
He's going to activate same thing as last time and throw back. The only thing that determines line of sight is this little center of square to that center of square.
Correct.
As long as there's nothing in between them. The only thing that counts that would be in between you would be like walls or enemies, right?
Or enemies, yes.
Why don't you explain to me how the enemies or other players can block line of sight?
Sure. So every space in Arcadia Quest fits up to 2 figures. If a space has 2 enemies, let's just for the example's sake, put 2 of my guys here. Those are enemies to Spencer, so he can no longer see the demons over there because the line between the 2 crosses a full a blocked space.
So I could shoot these guys,
Yep.
but I can't shoot her.
Correct.
Right, so let's say you had a super weak dude, like this guy was on the verge of death, right? And this monster was gone.
All right.
He was here, strategically putting these guys here is really smart for you, especially if they're untouched.
Yep.
Because you might want to keep him alive as long as possible.
Right. So another thing to keep in mind is that ranged has a slightly less chance of hitting than swords, right? The way that the dice are set up, ranged has 3 out of 6 chances, while swords have 4 out of 6 chances of hit.
So yeah, so basically, again, just like with a sword in real life, you just run up and bashing the dude, right? You don't have to line up the shot, and so it takes a little bit of skill, but it doesn't take as much as hitting with a range. So you still melee or range, you have the same amount to crit,
Right.
but if you can add the crit into the other types of attacks, your averages are always better with the melee, right?
Yep.
Right. Which is cool because it does eliminate, or at least it kind of helps drive player choice.
And it balances it out the way that ranged can just shoot from afar.
Yeah, shoot from afar. Perfect. So we've talked about melee attacks, we talked about monsters defending, we've talked about ranged.
Resting your guild.
Resting your guild, and again, in this case, let's say something went terribly wrong and she died.
Sure.
Just to reinforce this one particular part. She can respawn when I rest back here or here.
Yep,
Right.
correct.
Because she's close to him. She can even be in the same square as him, even over here, like there, as long as it's an open square for her to basically be available. And let me ask you this though.
Yeah.
She can't be close to me through a wall, right?
Correct. Those spaces are not closed because the walls.
The wall's right. Because that's something that some players have actually asked me about, and I said, no, the wall is there. You can't just warp them through the other wall.
Yep.
So, I think that's a pretty good understanding of how the game plays.
Sure.
That's pretty much the same from Arcadia 1.
Yep.
Arcadia Quest 1. And of course the Beyond the Grave expansion, which is actually we have something kind of similar in Inferno. So why don't you start by talking about the Brimstone cards?
Sure.
Similarly named something like Tombstone cards, right? We can talk about those, and then we can also talk about some of the other features that you've added in, and kind of wrap it up from there.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. All right, Spencer. So, as you might have seen from the Beyond the Grave expansion, we have these cards here on the table. In Beyond the Grave they're called Tombstone cards. We now have Brimstone cards, which kind of draw from the same mechanics as to how you activate them, but thematically they do some different stuff here in Inferno. Just as a recap, in order to get one of those, the space has to be free of enemies, and you spend 1 movement point to review one of those, and then apply the effect immediately.
So it's like you're like in the old game, in Beyond the Grave, old game,
The old
you were opening the tomb, basically, the Tombstone card. You're pulling the Tombstone out and getting some sort of magic power from it. So your character was using an action, a movement, similar to opening a door, to pull it up. In this case, you're grabbing the Brimstone to use it, right? So you have to burn a movement. Unlike the exploration tokens, which you're just picking up items, this is like you're actually doing something to the map, right?
Another thing that's important about them is that they're always good for you. They'll either benefit you or they will harm your opponents. So these are guaranteed something good for the player who's exploring them, and they do a variety of stuff. So one of them is, for example, activating enemies. So as in Beyond the Grave, the boards now are active because the monsters will now be activated from time to time to seek out some heroes. And that's fun because you get to attack your friends with the monsters.
Right. So when we were talking about the monsters attacking earlier, the monsters only react in certain scenarios, right? And some of them can move as part of their action when they become activated, but they don't activate on their own ever.
Yeah.
Right? They don't just go like, oh, this guy's close enough, I'll go. That doesn't happen unless he's been activated. However, a Brimstone card can reveal and say, hey, activate 1 minor minion or something like that. Right. And then if I'm the one who opened that Brimstone card up, revealed it, I can pick what minion I want to do. So then I can put a monster in your way, I can attack you with them. So it's a nice way for me to get even almost like an extra character activation out of a turn, right?
That's true. The other part that they do is that they interact with Damnation, which is the biggest main feature for Arcadia Quest Inferno. We'll get to that in a second. But what a Brimstone card would do is it's usually going to punish people who have too much Damnation. They will say things like, the hero with the most Damnation on board has to exhaust the card to take some wounds. They'll activate specific monsters to hunt down heroes with Damnation. So why don't we take a moment to talk about Damnation? Right?
Sure.
This is the biggest new mechanic for Arcadia Quest Inferno.
It's super cool.
Yeah, thematically, the thing is that as the heroes from the guilds journey down into Inferno to fight the Underlord, they have the opportunity to dabble in dark magic. They find demonic weapons or infernal magic equipment that they can use, and what they do is they'll give you some Damnation when you use them for a big boost right there and then, but they may come at a price. As you have seen, some Brimstone cards may come back to attack heroes who have too much Damnation. Some monsters will punish you for having too much damnation. And even some hero cards like Crusader Shot or other angelic theme items will punish heroes who have too much damnation.
When you say punish, that means like do extra damage, add extra dice.
Exhaustion of cards,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Okay, cool. So I force, like a player attacking somebody with damnation might require that he exhaust a card that he hasn't used yet.
Right.
So I'm limiting your options and eliminating an option for you on your next turn.
Yep.
So it's interesting because sometimes they do grant you ability. Like you might use damnation to get a dice, but then the next turn somebody might use an ability that says, hey, now you have to exhaust a card because you have damnation. Right. It's really cool.
And would you not use that big, awesome weapon, in your hands at a little cost to hit your friends?
But yeah, as we saw last night when we were playing around, we saw that sometimes that can be things like getting reset to your start zone, certain big guys throwing more dice at you because you're corrupted, you have the damnation on you, so they're damaging you a little bit more, right?
Yeah, that's the big new thing. Well, the other thing that is also a big new mechanic for Arcadia Quest Inferno, as you can see on this scenario, is the presence of angels.
This little dude right here, who is cool for a ton of reasons.
Yeah.
One, the art is cool.
Yeah.
Two, he's a different color than anybody else, which is a dope, like it's a little bit of bling.
He stands out.
He stands out, right? And so, what does he do for us as guild players? What does he do as something on the board? Why is he desirable?
Right, so in the first place, why are they here too, right?
Right, yeah.
These were the protectors, like the secret protectors for Arcadia. They have been kidnapped by the underworld here to Inferno. And what they do, it start out acting like NPCs, like non-player characters, where they're in the quest and there's something related to them. Sometimes you have to rescue them from being imprisoned or tortured. Sometimes you have to escort them or give them some kind of means of escape, right?
Right.
So the thing is, if you do manage to do that, and that's usually a PvE quest, you can get him to join your guild right there and then. So you pick that figure,
That's awesome.
plug your base, and he's part of your guild now. And one of the previous heroes will just take one for the team and just stay there.
Sure. One of the things we didn't touch on earlier, and this was actually something we saw last night, and we should have mentioned it, was death curses.
Right.
So when a hero does die, you do take a death curse token. And then at the end of the round, the scenario, you pull a number of cards equal to the number of death tokens you have, right?
In the case of Inferno, you also get more death curses if you have too much damnation.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, so that's another add-on.
Yeah.
Well, what we saw last night that's quite cool is that when this guy comes into your guild, if you have a guy who has like 3 death curses coming his way, you can just say, I'm not going to worry about those death curses right now. I'm going to put the angel in my guild.
Yep.
So now the repercussions, the negative effects I was going to feel from those death curses are negated because I have this guy who doesn't have any death curses.
Who's awesome.
Who is also awesome, right? This is one scenario.
Yeah.
Arcadia Quest, Beyond the Grave, and Inferno all feature the same campaign system. I mean, in the sense that it works similarly, and there is a campaign system in there, but of course each campaign is different.
Right.
In this case, you guys have been talking about this for a while now. Arcadia Quest Inferno has a branching campaign system.
Yeah, it does feature a branching campaign system. So instead of just being like the city itself, as you journey down Inferno, at some point you have to choose between going to the right circle or the left circle, right? So that will provide you with those quests. You cannot go to the other side. That will also mean that you're leaving behind some angels that have not been rescued, right? And those may come back looking for retribution later on. As monsters. Yes.
You didn't come and get me. Yeah. Now I'm a bad guy.
Yep.
That's super cool. So that's another cool theme. Thematically, that's awesome.
Yep.
Right? Another cool thing about it is it always means that you're always going to have to make a decision and you're not going to get to see everything on your first playthrough. So you might play one campaign with your buddies and go, I didn't get to see the other angels, I didn't get to see the other bosses, and you want to go and pick a different circle next time. Yep. That's basically an overview of how the game plays, right? Plus some of the new features. So I hope this was informative and that you guys liked what you heard. And if you want to see us actually play the game, check out the abbreviated gameplay video we're going to have up around the same time.
On this scenario.
On this scenario, yeah, exactly. Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.